Hi, everyone. Welcome in. Thank you for joining us today. We're just going to give it another minute or two as we have more folks trickling in. If you're joining us here today, feel free to drop in your name and your role and your pronouns and where you're tuning in from in the chat feature. We are turning on the chat feature right now. Thank you for that. Alrighty, we're going to get started. I think we have some things blocking our slides right now, but we're going to cancel them out so we can see our title page. And with that, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today for the Department of Education's You Belong in STEM series. Today's webinar marks the third webinar in our series. My name is Megan Chan, and I'm honored to serve as a STEM policy intern here at the U.S. Department of Education in the Office of the Deputy Secretary, Cindy Martin. I will also be moderating our conversation today. Under the Biden-Harris administration's Raise the Bar STEM Excellence for All Students initiative, You Belong in STEM seeks to grow educational opportunities in the fields of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics for students across the nation, as well as foster spaces of inclusivity for all. The initiative seeks to promote three goals: ensure all students from pre-K to higher education excel in rigorous, relevant, and joyful STEM learning, develop and support STEM educators to join, grow, and stay in the STEM education field, and invest in STEM education strategically and sufficiently using federal, state, and local funds. Today, we are focused on carving out spaces, amplifying strategies, and spotlighting opportunities for girls of color in the field of STEM. Personally, while planning for this webinar, it has been extremely inspiring to engage with so many of EdSTEM's stakeholders, which has led me to consider how differently my own life and my interests could have been in elementary school if I was given the resources and opportunities to explore different options in STEM from a young age. For girls of color, it is even more difficult to navigate the male-dominated field as a double minority. And that is why I am so happy that we are all here today to celebrate and amplify the work that the Department of Education and our panelists are focused on. Over the next hour or so, you will hear from 3 young women in STEM representing nationwide youth organizations and 4 experts as they share about their respective organizations and how they support diversity and inclusion of young girls and women of color in STEM. This conversation will be followed by a Q&A portion where we will open up the chat to questions that our audience members may have. In our next slide, you can see a little disclaimer for that. We ask that you send in your questions for this portion through the Q&A feature on Zoom, and we will answer as many as possible. In addition, I want to note that this webinar is being recorded and will be made accessible on the Department of Education STEM website at a later date. Any resources shared during today's webinar will be collected and shared with webinar participants. We encourage everyone to introduce themselves in the chat. Please feel free to share your name, your pronouns, and where you are tuning in from today. We ask that when asking questions or sharing thoughts that we use inclusive language. We want to avoid language that may exclude or offend any groups based on their gender, race, ethnicity, ability, or other identities. Today's webinar also features an ASL interpreter. In addition, we hope that everyone will be mindful of cultural and differences and sensitivities, avoid assumptions about cultural norms, and be open to learning from different and diverse perspectives today. Finally, as a disclaimer, any content or opinions expressed in this webinar are not that of the U.S. Department of Education, nor an endorsement of any persons, products, programs, or policies mentioned herein. And now, without further ado, at this time, I am beyond excited to begin with our youth panelist introductions. We will start the conversation hearing from 3 of our exemplary youth speakers. From Chief Science Officers, we have Jasmine, a sophomore in high school who is passionate about furthering community development and environmental sustainability. And here we have Jasmine.
Hello, my name is Jasmine, and I'm in the 10th grade. I live in Georgia, and I'm a member of the International Chief Science Officers Program. This is a student STEM ambassadors program where students grades 6 through 12 develop leadership skills through their interest in STEM, innovation, and advocacy. With members spanning 15 states in over 6 countries, over 1,500 CSOs worldwide work within their schools and communities to create an action plan that will have a positive impact in fostering a heightened sense of STEM in their area. Through the CSO program, I was able to amplify my voice and work with community leaders, leading change and making my school and county more conscious of community needs and how we can use STEM to address them. Each CSO is required to create a STEM-based action plan that addresses a need or enriches their community. As a first-year CSO, I wanted my action plan to address the issue of food insecurity. I chose this issue because it is near and dear to my heart. All schools within my area is Title I, and nearly 25% of my community faces food insecurity. Growing up, I always noticed how certain areas lacked access to nutritional food, and it wasn't until I was much older that I realized that a significant portion of my community lived in a food desert. I knew that I wanted to help my community, and through the CSO program, I was given the support and resources to create a garden club. With this club, I not only introduced my peers to the world of self-sustainability, but also gave them the materials they needed to take action. By the end of the year, we had given away over 100 free seed starting kits and increased access to green spaces for nearly 1,000 students in my middle school. This inspired me to continue this journey, and in my second year as a CSO, I founded my own organization called Let's Grow Clayton. Its mission was uniting Clayton County by providing access to resources to firsthand combat food insecurity, promote sustainable habits, and guarantee access to nutritious foods. Let's Grow Clayton hosted our inaugural exhibition that connected 15 local businesses to over 100 members of the community. In fact, because of its timing and late May, we're even able to get local candidates for government positions and showcase in the community how our elected officials want to support the Let's Grow Clayton mission. Currently, Let's Grow Clayton is scheduled to host many community events in collaboration with local governments and with both local governments and school officials who all want to advocate for food justice. I'm not alone in my pursuit to enrich my community. Just within the Metro Atlanta, the Metro Atlanta CSO cabinet, over 13,000 people this year alone has been impacted by CSO initiatives, with just a few being STEM nights, math Olympiads, garden clubs, and financial literacy clubs. Me and my fellow CSOs all recognize the STEM gaps within our communities, and with the aid of the CSO program, we used our student voices to bring change and create a better future for both our communities and ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jasmine, for that lovely introduction. And next, we have Kayla representing Million Girls Moonshot Flight Crew. Kayla is a junior in high school interested in chemical engineering and has been pursuing her passion in STEM through her involvement with the flight crew. Kayla?
Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Kayla, and I'm a part of the 2024 Million Girls Moonshot Flight Crew. In this program, 51 girls from across the country come together to champion after-school STEM activities for girls and non-binary youth. So how did I get to the Million Girls Moonshot Flight Crew? So since I was very young, I've always liked solving problems. At first, my solutions were very simple, but as I grew older, I had the chance to learn the basics of coding and electronics. And with these new skills, for the last 5 years, I've been participating in entrepreneurship and technology after-school activities, mainly connected to the UN Sustainable Development Goals. With every new competition, I kept learning about resilience, researching, design thinking, and leveraging new technologies like AI. This is how my STEM passion started. However, as a child, my parents also gave me many opportunities to learn from communities affected by migration, climate change, poor health services, and more. Most of the people I met were going through tremendous stress. However, there are also some other common denominators in all those places, like hope and deep need for empathy and solidarity. That's when I decided that I wanted to have a positive impact in the world by combining after-school activities in STEM and empathy to improve the lives of vulnerable people. And the Flight Crew program has allowed me to do that and so much more. Being a part of the program has given me incredible opportunities, such as co-facilitating a chat at the Qualcomm headquarters, where experts and youth came together to come up with a solution to improve the workforce in next-level tech fields. And that was just 3 weeks ago, actually, in San Diego at the Girls Build Solutions event. And of course, this opportunity. Then witnessing the power of collaboration at the event and the Million Girls Moonshot program just overall, where I've had the chance to meet with youth from every state that has unique backgrounds and experiences, has deepened my belief that in STEM, diversity is truly our biggest asset. Through the Flight Crew, I've also learned from incredibly professional people that work in STEM, after-school network representatives, and most importantly, my peers. And now with this knowledge, I'm working on a project called Soy Emprendedora, which means I'm an entrepreneur in Spanish. We are a binational impact organization encouraging and supporting young women in the United States and Mexico to become entrepreneurs using artificial intelligence. Our priority is to work with women from underserved backgrounds to help them achieve financial independence. So right now, my purpose is to inspire and support more young women, particularly Latinas like me, to explore after-school STEM opportunities and become entrepreneurs using AI. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kayla. I'm excited to introduce our third speaker, Elizabeth Holm. Elizabeth is the founder of the Sisterhood of Native American Coders, a nonprofit organization focused on addressing educational inequities in the field of computer science for underrepresented Native American girls. Through SONAC, Elizabeth and her team have created programming and opportunities of engagement for Indigenous girls through the establishment of a 12-week mentorship program. Elizabeth?
Hello, everybody. Hi, my name is Elizabeth Holm. I'm the founder of SONAC, Sisterhood of Native American Coders, just like Megan said. Thank you. As a little bit of background on myself, I'm a rising senior at Stanford University studying computer science with an artificial intelligence concentration. I was raised in a multi-generational home with ancestry in the Indigenous Americas. And I've been interested in coding and robotics from a young age, starting when I joined Lego robotics team in 4th grade. So it's been a while. During middle school, I was in a Qualcomm program called Q Camp, which is an all-girls coding camp where we learned how to code and made fun projects with, glitter and Arduinos. And I continued learning how to code throughout high school and now in university. So it's been a long journey, but happy to be on it. I think my interest primarily blossomed because the women in my life introduced STEM and coding from the start as a fun and challenging way to express my imagination. And that's something that I continue to try to bring is creativity and imagination into my coding endeavors. And yeah, I feel like, even to this day, I feel like programmers can be some of the most creative people out there. Now, as I was beginning to notice around high school, often Native Americans are left out of the STEM and equity conversations. The American education system fails to even teach about Native presence in modern day, and most people think that they don't exist anymore, or that they all live in teepees and wear the kind of clothes that they wore 300 years ago. So I wanted to help bring visibility to natives in STEM and help young Indigenous girls see that they had a community of girls like them. I also wanted to apply my knowledge in computer science to support an underserved community that's both personal to me and honors my late grandmother, Carmen, which is why I founded SONAC. And Megan gave a little intro, but yeah, just to summarize, SONAC is a 501c3 nonprofit that I founded in 2019. We run free virtual programs that teach 9 to 12-year-old girls, Indigenous girls, how to code in Python and expose them to Indigenous women in STEM that serve as their mentors and people to look up to. The main goals of SONAC are to close the gender gap of women in STEM careers, provide engaging STEM education and activities for Native American girls, and form a community of girls led by a peer who can support each other through their academic and internship and occupational endeavors. And our sisterhood is quite strong. We're currently made up of 140 SONAC girls from 89 unique tribal affiliations and 26 states. So that's a little bit about me and SONAC, and I'm excited to talk today.
Thank you, Elizabeth, and thank you to all of our youth panelists for their wonderful introductions and for opening up the conversation today. And now we're kind of shifting gears and we're going to move to our expert panelists. So first up, we have Dave Peth, the series creator of Lila in the Loop and executive producer at Mighty Picnic, and Nika Bolden, the digital producer on Lila in the Loop and community engagement lead for Mighty Picnic. Lila in the Loop is an Ed Ready to Learn grantee and has been supporting the field of STEM for preschool and early elementary school children through their educational television and digital media programming. Dave and Nika?
Hi.
Hi. Thank you all for having us. Yes, we, among many others across the country and even in Canada, came together to produce Lila in the Loop, PBS Kids series for kids age 4 to 8. Are we able to see these slides as well?
Yes, the slides are being shared right now.
Thank you very much. Next slide. Lila in the Loop is an animated comedy for kids 4 to 8, starring Lila there. She's a dynamic 7-year-old Black girl. That's her close-knit Loop's family, her siblings, and her parents, and her fantastical little blue sidekick there, Stu. Together, they spotlight creative problem-solving skills and critical thinking skills while working collaboratively with others in their family and their community. Stu is, by the way, not a cat, not a robot. He is something truly unique, and he helps Lila and her family by doing exactly what they ask, no more, no less, sort of in a computer-like way. He interprets your requests very literally. So if you ask Stu to flip the pancakes, or flip the waffles rather, he will flip every single last one of them, just not in the way you might expect. Next slide. Lila, in large part, was funded as a part of the Ready to Learn grant from the Department of Education through CPB and PBS. It's a grant that supports development of innovative educational television and digital media targeted at preschool and early elementary school children and their families, with the goal of promoting early learning and school readiness, and particularly in low to moderate income households. Without this funding, it is questionable whether would have been able to do a program like Lila in the Loop. It's enabled us to focus on computational thinking, which again is a collection of skills and techniques to break down complicated problems and solve them a piece at a time, much the way that engineers and computer scientists do. And it's something which maybe has not been tried on this scale. And so it's because of funding like that provided by the Department of Ed through Ready to Learn that we're able to tackle something like this. Next slide. Here's a quick 30-second spot where you can see a bit of the show in action.
Check out Lila in the Loop on PBS Kids. Lila and her pal Stu love to make things. I've got an idea. They get pretty creative.
Try not to make too big of a mess.
Sometimes too creative. But they always figure out a way to clean up even the stickiest situations. Well, most of the time. It's Lila and Stu from Lila in the Loop, streaming free on PBS Kids.
Thanks for that. Next slide.
Lila in the Loop.
Along with other PBS Kids shows, you can watch Lila on linear TV, on your smart TV, on the PBS Kids video app, on the 24/7 channel. You can see all the things on there, and you can access Lila resources for free across all those platforms, including educational resources on PBS Learning Media. We're going to make a podcast coming in, be available coming early 2025. And also a suite of digital games, which Nika will be able to speak to in a few moments here. Let's keep going. So far, the reception has been strong. We've had millions of streams across PBS Kids platform, video platforms on YouTube, and the live stream, and tons of gameplays in the app, which all is to say, like, we're pleased that this is striking a chord, it seems like, with families, and hopefully kids and their grown-ups are feeling encouraged by what they see with the Luce family, and maybe you want to do the same things they're seeing there and invent and be creative together as a family. Next slide. It's not just on the screen that we're a representation, diversity is important. It's also true for all of us who are making the show. And this is one small piece of it, those that are on the Mighty Picnic team, involved in all aspects of production, writing, TV, digital, social media, design, the whole works. It makes it more fun to have all different kinds of folks represented on the team, and certainly makes our storytelling and the creative that much stronger because we're able to bring people's authentic lived experience into the stuff we make. Next slide. Same thing for our advisors. We have some super smart advisors from higher learning and industry who have contributed to the project. These are them right there. If anyone's looking for advisors in early childhood education, STEM, technology, I would reach out to these folks. Can't say enough good things. Next slide. This is where Lila sits in terms of educational goals and approach. The main part of the Venn diagram is that computational thinking skills and mindsets. It's like breaking down a problem, understanding how you can rearrange the pieces, coding concepts like loops and if-then conditionals, as well as the mindsets that help you sort of sustain yourself through what's a kind of a messy problem-solving process. You have to be able to pay attention to what's going on, stay on task, work with others, collaborate productively. And all that there's stuff that even grown-ups need to learn how to do better, frankly. And certainly we can start in early childhood as well. That connects to, the executive function and social emotional skills like we just mentioned there, as well as sort of painting a picture how these skills apply certainly to STEM careers, as we've said, but also really careers across the spectrum. Loop's family runs a family restaurant, and certainly computational thinking skills are used every single day in being able to run and operate a place like that. Next slide. Again, we don't need to read all of these. We're happy to share them later. These are some of the key learning goals summarized, the top 5. Problem solving is joyful. See yourself as a creative problem solver. You can do this. Become familiar with the CT skills, as you mentioned. Strengthen those social emotional skills so you can work with others. And then you practice applying them in all different contexts in everyday life and in school too. Next slide. Lastly, and then we'll move over to Nika so she can showcase some of the work. This is what Lila's got not all launched right now, but over the course of the project and through grants like the Ready to Learn grant, we're able to make 80 11-minute stories that are paired together in those 40 half-hour episodes that you see on PBS Kids, with there's 2 parts to them. And then the 20 little shorts in between. We have 5 digital games on our website and social media platforms. And then we have a parent educator page. And then, of course, the Lila in the Loop podcast, which is coming in 2025. And you'll see more about the games and the parent and education materials in a second. Next one. Nika, please showcase our lovely work.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Dave. I just want to add on to the fact that we have incredible resources that we have worked on that extend the learning goals of the series and bring them into your everyday life. So we have websites that are available, there are apps, there are games, there are printables, videos, all kind of things. So I'm going to walk through some of them. This is our Lila in the Loop website on pbskids.org/Lila. There you'll find games, videos, and activities that you can print that have all been workshopped not only with our academic advisors to make sure that we are furthering some of the lessons in the series, but also that we have worked with Ready to Learn learning neighborhood stations. So everything that we have on the website has been reviewed by many different advisors and community members who help us make sure that this is something that would be useful in a library and an after-school program. And those are all available in English and Spanish to download, both in color and in black and white, to make them as accessible as possible. Next slide, please. I just want to highlight, and I mentioned the Ready to Learn learning neighborhoods that we partner with. This is a group of stations that I meet with fairly regularly to talk about. These are some resources we're thinking we can create to help people understand and further engage with the series and what it's teaching. And we workshop together. We do a co-design process, so I get feedback, I loop in our designer, and it really is a big effort of us trying to make sure that we're creating things that will be used and are easy to understand. So some of the things we have 50+ activity cards that have games or activities you can do with limited to no resources in your home or at school that last 10 minutes or under. So if you've got a transition moment where there's an opportunity for you to engage your class or your kids to learn a little bit, we've got 50 of these ready for you to go. There's a lot more. These are all available on our learning media page. And we're really proud of this work. Next, please. The digital game. So I am a digital producer on top of being a community engagement lead for the series. And a large part of my job is translating what's going on in the series into interactive moments. So many of you have probably played Scratch or Scratch Junior, where there's the coding blocks that you put together. I've been trying to take a different approach based on my understanding of computational thinking skills, working with a large team of folks to bring the joy and the fun of the family and iconic moments in the series. Imagine a kid getting to play with Stu. Well, you can help program him to do different tricks. I also realized, as a Black woman in STEM, how important the representation of the series is. And so I really pushed for one of our games to be focused on hair. And when you're doing hair, like you're putting in braids in your hair or other kind of hairstyles, it teaches algorithmic thinking. There are a number of steps you have to complete. And I just had never seen, a kid in a bonnet in a digital game or getting to work on someone with an afro and put in leave-in conditioner. And so that's one of our games that's going to be coming to the website. And it also is, why it's important for people who look like me and other young girls, especially young Black girls, to be getting into tech, because these are things that don't exist. And it was easy for me to just think of. So there's a whole suite that we think really extends the series in a good way. You get to work in the Loops restaurant, you're getting to teach Stu things and you're getting to braid Lila's hair. So we're really proud of this. Next slide, please. I think this is you, Dave.
Yeah, well, you're getting plenty of love in the chat there for those games as well. Well deserved. And we on socials wanted to say we're getting a lot of helpful comments and encouraging comments from parents and fans. That's always nice to hear. That's the biggest compliment, is when someone takes the time to say something about how it impacts them and their family. So next slide. So some pictures have come through and are super cute. That's Liu, who is the actress there in the second picture who's the voice of Lila, with a fan at a local Philadelphia WHYY event. That TikTok video, which we won't play now, shows a kid who we don't know getting an image of Stu shaved in the back of his head. So as far as we know, he's the only one to pioneer that hairstyle, but it was nice to see. Next. Lastly, wanted to highlight a way that we've gotten some students involved. Every episode begins with a title card like this that shows the title of the episode. And we invited students from across learning neighborhoods and through other avenues, other educational connections to submit artwork to be included as the mural that is sort of laid behind the text there you see. Next slide. Here you can see some of the artwork as it comes in, and then we apply a little stylized treatment to make it fit with the cartoon look of the show, but try to preserve the original artist's creative vision in doing so. But that's another way that we're trying to find to get kids to think, yeah, I can participate in media production now. I don't have to wait until I'm a grown-up. I'm invited to share my creativity with the world right now. Next. I think that's it. Nika, any last words from you?
No, I'm just really excited to talk to you all about my experience with Black women in tech, leading production for the series, helping to answer any questions. I've learned a lot about computational thinking, and just excited to talk more about what we've got and just partner and hear ideas from you all. So thank you for your time.
Yes, and we'll put our contact information again in the chat for both of us. Thanks again.
Thank you, Dave and Nika. Lots and lots of love in the chat for you all and Lila in the loop. Just as a reminder, we will be sending out resources and the webinar is recorded. So links will be sent out after the end of the Zoom. And so next, this brings us to our next speaker. Also joining us today on the panel, we have Shahada Salim, a National Girls Collaborative board member, co-chair of the STEM Push Network Steering Committee, and Director of Youth Programs and Pathways at the New York Hall of Science in Queens, New York, an organization that is a You Belong in STEM commitment maker. Shahada works closely with her team to produce STEM development and workforce opportunities to support and help nurture student interests in the field. Shahada, the floor is yours.
Hi, thank you so much, Megan, and such a wonderful program, Lila in the Loop. Megan, please let me know. I know we're running a little short on time, so I'll try and move quickly through my slides so we have an opportunity for the Q&A at the end. I know that's something a lot of people wait for. So thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity to be here and share a little bit about my journey. Like Megan shared, my name is Shahada Salim. I'm from the New York Hall of Science in Queens, New York. And I'm going to share a little bit more about my journey and some of the work that I've been doing with 15 plus years in the field. So in the beginning, just to let you know, I'm from Queens, New York. If we have any New York people in the room, what's up? I'm from a city called Far Rockaway, which is the last stop on the A train. So for those of you who know about the A train in New York City, it's the last stop, sort of a shoreline community right on the Atlantic side, Atlantic Beach, Rockaway Beach. And that's where I had my love for marine science. Next slide, please. So really quickly, the beach and the boardwalk, that's where I got my growing love of the ocean. I was a shy little girl in elementary school. I was getting a little less shy in high school, but what was a turning point for me was in my internship at the New York Aquarium and finding the love of education and ways to expand and share my love of all things marine science. Next slide, please. So quickly, again, as I continue to understand marine science by being on the coast of Queens in New York City, I had so many questions from my mom and for my family by living on the beach. And there were many questions she did not and was not able to answer. But because of PBS, right, and the Nova shows, I was really able to understand, as a Black girl, as a Black young lady, learning about environmental science and the natural world around me, and having the opportunity to go to college. I went to upstate New York at Outfit University, and there I was able to deepen my understanding of science and research. And I was the only Black girl in my classes in undergrad. And so that was also a turning point for me to understand what it means to be in different spaces, what it means to really advocate for myself and to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. I was also able to cultivate some relationships. So even though I was the only Black girl in my classes, I was making sure that I was part of the multicultural club, that I was also finding people like me within my college campus to also help to complement that side of my own development as well as my higher learning development. And in recognizing that I was only one of the few Black girls in my classes, I made sure to also cultivate relationships with some of my friends who were like, girl, you sure you want to be in this class? And I said, yes. And I shared my love of geology and my love of natural environment with my friends and my family. And I think that was a really great perspective for them to learn and think outside the box, and not to assume that, as a Black girl, I should only go into this field of study of STEM. Next slide, please. So in my undergrad years, I still had that love of marine science, right? But I had the love of marine geology. And because of some of my classes, I was like, oh, you can put those two together. Because when I shared with my family that I wanted to be a marine scientist, they said, oh, do you want to work with dolphins? Do you want to be a dolphin trainer? Like, what's that all about? And so that also reminded me of the biases that exist within the field of marine science and what can and cannot be done, or should not be done. So I went to Florida. Next slide, please. So in Florida, I got my master's at the College of Marine Science at the University of South Florida. And that transition was really hard, right? So as a Black girl from Queens, going to the South in South Florida, again, one of the very few Black girls in my classes, but understanding that perseverance and grit, as well as counseling and mental health, was really important, and something that I had to advocate for myself. Again, as a Black girl in these spaces, I understood and started to learn about the importance of mental health, the importance of community, and also the importance of higher education. And grad school is hard, right? Education is tough, but if you're able to take advantage of those resources and the people around you, you can find your tribe and find your voice again. And so I had to learn how to activate my networking and communication skills and be a powerhouse for myself and for others. Next slide, please. So I really did think that marine science and research was going to be my thing. I was like, yes to research. I understood that education is hard, and you all have an important job as educators, both formally and informally. But what turned it around for me was taking classes in graduate school through the National Science Foundation's GK-12 Oceans program. And Dr. Teresa Greeley, of the College of Marine Science was a wonderful mentor and trigger for me to understand that marine science, communication, and education is key. And going into the classroom and learning with the teachers, learning with the students, as well as being representation as a Black girl in marine science, as well as education, was important. And so that's where I found my calling and my passion to go into education. Next slide, please. So I came back home. I had a pinky promise with my older sister. That's my sister there. She's a year older than me. And I pinky promised her that if I got a job back in New York, I would come back home and, be here with my family. And so she actually applied for a job for me at the Intrepid Museum in Manhattan, and I got the job. And it was really great opportunity for me to get into informal education and really start my journey. Next slide, please, in STEM and education. So I actually started Goals for Girls at the Intrepid Museum. It's an acronym that stands for Greater Opportunities Advancing Leadership in Science. And what's really great for me, I won't share more about the Goals program, but what I will share is that it helped to put the program on the map to solicit for girls of color, especially middle and high school girls, to come to the museum and learn about youth development, to learn about the diversity and intersectionality of STEM and STEAM, to prepare them for the next step, whether it's going to high school or going to college, and to mirror that with mentors and role models, getting different types of women in STEM careers to come for mentorship day and learn and share their journey and share how they got to be where they are with these middle and high school girls, and to also create community and camaraderie. Next slide, please. So the journey keeps on going for myself. I actually found for myself that networking, collaboration, and fellowship programs were also a way that I can grow and to develop. So not only is it great to have representation and to show the development of Black girls and girls of color, as well as families and families of color in New York City, but it is also just as important for you as a person, as an educator, as an artist, as an engineer, as a scientist, to develop yourself. So I was given the opportunity to become a fellow at the New York Community Trust, to also be part of Columbia University's leadership program, to also be a fellow at the 92nd Street Y Women Empower program, and to also be a part of, through the New York Hall of Science and my work at the New York Hall of Science with the STEM Push Network. So I show this slide to remind all of us that our network and the ways that we collaborate with each other is just as important. And I think Lila in the Loop also showed that beautiful team of people and diverse skills and diverse passions to come together to create something wonderful and sustainable. Next slide, please. So as a board member of the National Girls Collaborative Project, I highly encourage you all to look up that wonderful organization. And Karen Peterson approached me about 2.5 years ago. And I knew about the collaborative and the collaboratives that are a national effort to bring STEM to various neighborhoods and communities, especially highlighting girls and girls of color. And it's a great opportunity to increase these opportunities, to create this network, this village of people, to research, to collect data, to share success stories, to share some failures, to celebrate together. And it's also a great way to collaborate with nonprofits and industry leaders and professionals and funders. The National Girls Collaborative Project also has a beautiful group of young girls on the Youth Advisory Board. We just not too long, I think some months ago, actually had 2 of our Youth Advisory Board members become board members. So we have youth board members on the team because their perspective is also just as important. And we advocated together to make sure that we included them in that quote unquote executive level to understand decisions, how decisions are made, but also to help make decisions. And then lastly, the National Girls Collaborative Project provides a really great way to develop and provide supportive resources and research, such as the State of Women and Girls in STEM as a resource. Next slide, please.
Shahada, I'm so sorry. I think we're gonna leave your slide for the development of young scientists and explainer program for the Q&A portion, so we can leave some room for you to talk about that in that portion.
Okay.
But
No
thank
problem.
you so much for sharing about all the work you're doing at the National Girls Collaborative. It's really amazing. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
And then moving forward, we have our next speaker lined up. Joining us from Million Women Mentors, we have Janine Konecki, who is the Chief Grant Development Officer and Million Women Mentors lead at STEM Connector. Throughout her career, Janine has specialized in designing and redesigning fundraising and program systems to help nonprofit organizations scale both impact and revenue, which has led her to help establish STEM initiatives and programs that have supported students in the field. Million Women Mentors is also a You Belong in STEM commitment maker. Janine?
Well, thank you, Megan. I'm so honored to be here among all these amazing panelists. Our youth speakers were amazing and the things they're doing are amazing. So I'm just excited to be here. As Megan said, I am with STEM Connector and I am oversee our Million Women Mentors program along with our national chair, Dr. Sheila Boyington. MWM, as we call it, is the premier network dedicated to encouraging girls and women around the world to pursue, persist, and succeed in STEM careers. We're now in our 11th year. We connect local communities and girl-serving organizations to state leaders, corporations, nonprofits, and education institutions. We like to say it's a national and a global movement with local roots. We're present in 24 states. We are in 7 additional countries to the US, one of which you're going to hear about a little bit later, if we can get our slides going. And what we do with Million Women Mentors is we provide resources, playbooks, and support to organizations that are implementing mentoring programs. We also host insightful webinars and events. You can move to the next slide, thank you. Events such as our annual STEM Innovation Forum with STEM Connector and STEMX Patel, which will happen in October in Las Vegas this year. We host National Mentoring Month webinars. This year, we had our national chair, Dr. Boynton, and U.S. Department of Education's own Mecca Smith join us. And we celebrate International Women's Day every year. And this year, we featured executive women from Intel, BP, and the Emphasis Foundation talking about how they made their careers in STEM happen and how they made them a reality. My own involvement with and strong belief in the power of mentoring formed really early. I didn't really realize at the time, but my experience with mentoring first happened at a girls' summer basketball camp when I was in 9th grade. It was right after the groundbreaking Title IX Act. If you don't know about that, please learn about it. It's amazing. It was passed. Colleges were beginning to build more female sports teams, and they were beginning to provide athletic scholarships. And my dream was to get one of those scholarships. So that camp experience with all female college players and all female college coaches provided the vision and the support and the sense of belonging. We're here to talk about belonging, right? It's the sense of belonging that I needed to succeed. And because of that, in 1982, I accomplished my dream and I became a college scholarship athlete. And I went on to earn a bachelor's and I went on to earn my master's in education. And I never forgot that experience. And I never got that feeling. And so I always wanted to be involved in some way in pulling up the next group of girls behind me. So as an adult, I began to serve as a mentor to young women, primarily women of color, like my daughter, both formally and informally. And so my most recent mentoring experience was with the Earl Wood Scholar Program, which is a fantastic program of TGR Foundation, which is Tiger Woods Education STEM Foundation. And they paired me with this quiet, fiercely intelligent, beautiful girl named Jacinia. And Jacinia just graduated from Scripps College last year with her biology degree and will be attending med school in 2025. Could not be more proud of her. So because this webinar is about the power of mentoring, I want to quickly highlight 3 current examples of student mentoring programs that MWM is involved with. 1 is sponsored by the U.S. Department of State, and 2 are sponsored and funded by the National Science Foundation. And one of the things I want to mention, why I mentioned NSF, is it's important to know and understand that we have evidence-based, research-supported programs when we go and bring them to our youth. So we're very proud to be a part of that NSF family. Our role in this is that our pod community technology, which if you can go to the next slide, please. That community technology keeps students and faculty, mentors and mentees informed and connected in a protected environment. And it allows programs to advance mentoring connections and job opportunities, both within and far wide of their geographic location. We all learned in the pandemic that in Zoom, geography kind of went out the window and we learned how we could connect with one another in technology. Technology alone can't provide mentoring. People provide the mentoring, but the technology can support the people that you're involved with, and it can broaden the network of people you can be exposed to. So the IMAP Hub project, it's a 5-year project. It's starting with 3 HBCUs, and it will expand to 10 HBCUs and MSIs by 2027. And it will also expand to 300 students by 2027. And what IMAP really does well with our map is they focus on providing support and sponsorship for students to find paid internships, not free internships, paid internships and career opportunities while they're still in school. You don't always have to leave school to be able to work. And with the support of sponsors and faculty, that is making their dreams happen while they're actually still in school. The next project I want to highlight is WISEN, Women in STEM Education Network. It's a co-mentoring collaborative. It fosters networks between girls within one university and across the other 3 universities. So 4 universities are in this project. And they lean heavily on cohort mentoring and having cohorts, just like the Earl Wood Scholar Program did at TGR. They build cohorts of students, so those students become each other's mentors. They're peer mentoring one another. They have a sense of belonging within their cohort as well as within their program. And that's really, really vital to keep students protected and to keep them along their path so they don't drop out of STEM. The peer cohort and faculty, student, and working professional student mentoring opportunities are boundless. Wizen is just kicking off. They include females and students who identify as female in their program. And that cohort mentoring that I was talking about is just, it's so important. It's such a brilliant part of this program. Next slide. And one of the reasons they've been so successful, and this is a really important point when you're thinking about mentoring programs, they recruited and convened student task force and discussion groups to listen to them and to hear the concerns and needs of minoritized women. And it deeply informed, and it continues to inform, this pilot project because they're listening to the students that they are there to help, right? One of the best ways to build a sense of belonging and encouragement is to provide your mentees in the process of creating and recreating continuously your program on an ongoing basis so that they have a voice in what they are participating in. Next slide. With Wizen, they use our technology in this way to make sure that students are informed of events, Wizen events, but also STEM events, any event that might be happening in their community, about opportunities, about conferences they might be able to go speak to, right? And so they're keeping them informed in real time about meetings, resources, events, and opportunities that can make huge, huge differences in their current experience as well as their future careers. And then the last program I want to talk about is happening thousands and thousands and thousands of miles away in Afghanistan. This is a program that's supported by the Department of State. It was launched by Secretary of State Antony Blinken, and the initiative aims to mentor 1 million Afghan women and girls in Afghanistan and other countries around the world by 2027. And they're doing that by engaging corporations and educational institutions, and they're asking people to recruit. You couldn't be mentoring a girl in Afghanistan if it wasn't for the power of technology. So this allows people from Deloitte, from any of the other organizations who participate now. And if you're interested in learning more to how to participate, contact me later. But this, if you go to the next slide, this is how the girls who are to be mentored through this program can find their mentors. They can, each person who's interested in becoming a mentor just creates this profile and says, here's why I'm interested in mentoring. Here's what I do in the world of STEM. Please reach out to me if you're interested in learning more. And the girls that do this, they are protected. This is a password protected environment. It's completely vetted. And so there's a series of steps that has to happen before people are actually connected with their mentees. So just really quickly, I mean, it's a fantastic program. We're so proud of it. We've gone over 3 different programs, all of which have a common objective. And the common objective is using the power of mentoring to build a sense of community and a sense of belonging in girls and women in STEM. And we do that by supporting, encouraging, and empowering them to dream big and accomplish those dreams. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, Janine, for sharing all of that. That was all wonderful, wonderful work. And just for anyone who's tuning in now, just as a quick reminder, the webinar is being recorded and all resources and contact information will be sent out in a follow-up email at a later date. And so next, rounding out our amazing experts, we have joining us from Battelle and STEMX. We have the Director of Corporate Engagement and Education Outreach for Battelle, Regina B. Schofield. Regina has extensive experience in furthering STEM education outreach and directing all of Battelle's regional philanthropy engagements at the state, local, and regional levels. Regina has utilized her leadership experience to advocate for diversity, equity, and inclusion in both the corporate and public spaces. Regina, the floor is yours.
Hello. Thanks so much for that introduction, Megan. It is tough to be last when we have so many questions that we want, and particularly for our students to be engaged with us. So I'm going to tell people to look me up on LinkedIn if they want to talk more about my professional capacity. But in the interest of time, I'd like to say that one of the things that I do mostly in my day job is find ways to support early and mid-career young women They run into a lot of problems once they've battled all of the things that the rest of you have talked about today on this call. They get to a place where their growth is stunted professionally. And so I tend to lean in and mentor a lot of young people about and teach them about how to advocate for themselves, whether it's career financially wise, thinking about that next step, looking at the horizon, looking for other jobs if that's what's available to them, but all the time learning to advocate for themselves. So with that, again, if you want to chat with me more professionally on LinkedIn, please do so. Along with my colleague, Heather Sherman, who's on this call. We support a national organization for STEM professional leaders around the states. It's called STEMX. And we really look for ways to highlight students and support teachers, particularly in rural areas and with a variety of diversity institutions that we look to support. So Megan, I'm going to turn it back to you because I know you had a ton of questions, but I, like many others on these calls, really probably want to hear more from the young women.
Thank you so much, Regina, for the introduction and for talking to us about all the amazing work you're doing at Battelle. And yeah, this brings us to our Q&A portion. As a reminder, if you have a question for our panelists, please feel free to use the Q&A feature that we have here on Zoom, and we will try our best to get through as many questions with the time that we have left on our webinar today. And so for our first question to open up this portion up, it's kind of a question that's open up to the entire panel. And that is, or specifically actually for our youth speakers, how can schools and teachers make STEM subjects more engaging and inclusive for girls of color? So if any of our youth panelists want to take on this question, feel free to unmute.
I can start, I guess. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay, perfect. I think sparking a passion for STEM in girls of color would require schools and teachers to foster a culturally relevant and empowering learning environment. So this can involve infusing the curriculum with real-world examples and historical figures that resonate with their experiences. I feel like imagining designing a fashion line using sustainable materials or exploring environmental justice through STEM. Just making the curriculum more attractive based on their identities would ignite more engagement, I feel. And I also think that actively addressing the stereotypes and biases that exist within the STEM field, combined with hands-on activities, would create a space where girls of color can explore, experiment, and see themselves thriving in the exciting world of STEM.
And if one of our expert panelists, if Dave or Dika, how do you think schools and teachers can make STEM subjects more engaging, whether that be through media content or whether that be through digital platforms?
I mean,
Go ahead, Nika.
there's a number of ways. I think meeting kids where they're at. I think using language that is accessible. I think representation so that kids see people in their lives that look like them are a number of ways, soft ways. Yeah, making it fun. It's really cool work that this career field kind of opens up for you. Dave, what were you gonna say?
Oh no, you covered all the things that I was gonna say. One thing I could add is that for grown-ups in the kids' lives, for parents and educators, and I'm a parent, we can do a lot by just showing that we're comfortable working STEM skills into our everyday life, and that we don't see ourselves as like not a math or science person, and the kids will pick up on the more positive relationship that you have with these topics.
Thank you for that. And I also wanted to open up this question again to any of our other panelists who might have some opinions to share. Feel free to unmute. or I know, Shahada, your involvement with NYSCI and the work that you do creating youth pathway programs. Is there anything that schools and teachers or ways that they can get involved with the museum and the program that you're involved in right now?
Thank you for that, Megan. I was typing in the chat some answers. But yes, the New York College of Science provides a plethora of opportunities for high school and college students to apply to be an explainer, and it's a great opportunity for them to develop their workforce skills. And this is for male and female and all gendered students to participate or apply to participate in this program. And the curriculum provides that sense of belonging that one of our panelists was talking about, and ways to engage visitors and support our model of design, make, play. It's also a great way for them to develop their critical thinking skills, their communication skills, their multitasking skills, and networking skills. And so for their year-long opportunity to be here at the New York College of Science, they're practicing those skills, and they're also developing their network as well. And what's great is that they can bring along their friends. We also offer free events and programs for families and youth to come to the museum to explore and to be kids again, and to have their child or their students teach them and promote the ways of learning STEM and STEAM together as a unit. So the New York College of Science is a great place to do that. So look into your local museums or nonprofits and get in there with the students or get in there with your children to have a great time with STEM or STEAM.
Thank you so much, Shahada. And then another question that we have, this one more to Regina and Janine, with your experience in mentorship. What partnerships have proven successful in promoting girls in STEM, and how can they be expanded? If Regina, you want to start us off?
When I hear the word partnership, I'm thinking about something more structured. And I tend to think that if you see somebody that looks like they're doing something that you would like to do, or you're curious about how they got there, I think you should ask them out for a cup of coffee. If you're passing someone at work, in the cafeteria, at a conference, pass them your card. And it could be something that's very informal that turns into a formal mentoring relationship. I do think you have to ask that person. You might say, hey, Regina, I'd like to know your story. And then after, because I'm going to ask you what your story is. And then you may say, hey, would you mind mentoring me, or would you mind coaching me? Whatever word you want to use, and that can turn into something formal. Janine can speak to those formalized relationships, but I think it is as simple as Megan and I having a chat, and then I say, Megan, what's your story? And then just kind of getting into what led her to make the decisions that she did. And then me, being slightly older than Megan, might say, when I was your age, these are the things that I experienced, or in my first job, and now pay equity, my kids talk about, they all know who's paid what. That's not always the case for those of us of other generations. And so that's why I spend my time talking to people about how to stay in your space, advocate for yourself, know your worth, claim your worth, demand your worth. And that becomes more of a formal relationship. So I'll stop and let, a formal one-to-one relationship, not something as structured as MWM. So I'll stop and let Janine chime in on the structure that her organization provides.
Well, thank you, Regina. And one thing I just really want to highlight about what Regina is saying is that for people who are already in careers, absolutely those whether it's a formal mentoring program or it's informal, like you just approach somebody and say, like, I want to be like that person. I have a lot of informal mentors. Some of them don't even know they're my mentors. You know what I mean? Like, I learn from them, and then I try and tell them. It's like one day when I get a chance, like, I look up to you and I learn from you. So that informal mentoring is fantastic. For younger girls, it's hard to come across informal mentoring in the same way. And that's why these structured programs are really, really important, right? They don't always know. I think, like, you look at something like Lila in the Loop, that's already got people, girls and boys of all colors, thinking about what they can do and what they can be. And that's fantastic. So they're probably going to walk into classrooms already looking for, like, who can be my role model. That's not always the case for all kids. And it's not the case a lot of times for first generation college students. So for them to be able to see careers and see people who look like them in those careers is really important. So we use formal partnerships. We rely on people in corporations to step up and say, I want to participate. I want to support these programs financially. We want to support nonprofits and schools financially in developing and implementing these mentoring programs. But I also want to raise my hand as a volunteer, as an individual, and say, I will serve as a mentor. When I was matched with Jasenia, her parents were Mexican born. They do not speak English very well, but they were bound and determined that their girls were going to go to college. And so we formed a very tight bond that had nothing to do with having a shared experience. But I also asked her, do you have women in your life who mentor you? I can't be your only mentor, right? It can't just be me. Think about all those things. All of us can step forward and mentor through specific programs. You can go to MWM and learn more. It will be in the packet. But you can be tremendous help regardless of what your personal history and what your personal background is. So that's what I would say.
Thank you for that, Janine. And I also kind of want to extend this question to Dave or Nika, like being that you guys, Lila and the Loop, being ed grantees, what does the partnership look like in that space? And is it different for like a digital programming, and what are your thoughts on getting those resources?
I can speak to that a little bit with the community engagement efforts that I lead. Similar to what Janine was saying, like we do have, we are lucky in that we are a nationally broadcasted series. So we are on TV, and that gets the word out there. And we have generous funding from the DOE to really help us get out there. But it's also like on the ground, going out and making partnerships, reaching out to people that I just think are interesting, scouring social media. I've been, and really, I think Dave and I have been trying to imagine, what do these partnerships look like? How can they be mutually beneficial? I think we're always looking for people who are mission aligned. But there are certain things too for me that I am particularly looking for. I really want people who are looking at educating young Black women in STEM, the joy of it, people who are looking at supporting families throughout the understanding and learning of this curriculum. I also went to Howard University, so there's certain connections in my own life where I went to Howard Homecoming and tried to get the word out there about this series. I've been traveling all over the country, meeting a lot of people. There's many people in the comments and on this panel that I will be reaching out to as well. So, it is about being proactive and just trying to imagine together what are ways that we can work to help get this out there, because we're all so mission aligned. It's so important just to get more young BIPOC kids into STEM. So yeah, it's kind of all over the place. I don't know, Dave, you have anything else to add to that?
No, once again, you covered it. Couldn't have said it better. I'll add on this, like just Nika said, we are interested in making connections, because you never know what interesting creative partnerships might spring up. We haven't figured it out yet, but we are, and we're gonna, with your help, hopefully.
And Megan, I would also just interject really quickly from a standpoint of funding, because I became a fundraiser by accident. I was developing education programs, and then I realized, oh, somebody has to fund these programs. And then I learned I was actually better at getting the funding than I was at probably building the program. So I let somebody else do that. But there's probably never been more funding available in history through the federal government than right now to support STEM education through the CHIPS and Science Act, through what Department of Education is doing. There's funding through Department of Defense, Department, of Energy. There's a lot out there. So if you don't know about that and you are in a nonprofit or a higher ed institution, learn, Google some things and learn, or reach out to me and I'll teach you how to do it. But it's not that it's easy, but there's a lot of support out there for these purposes right now.
Amazing. And just so we can get both sides of the perspectives, switching gears and asking our youth the question, Jasmine from Chief Science Officers, how have you applied your learn experience from your program into the field or space that you're currently interested in working in?
So from the Chief Science Officers, I have definitely learned to be confident in both my skills in my abilities, but also my support system. Through the Chief Science Officers, our action plans, we have to consistently talk to people that, most students my age might feel intimidated to do so. I mean, this is both peers, teachers, administrations, and depending on your scale, this could also be, government officials, community leaders. Essentially, through this program, I was able to learn how to effectively communicate and, be able to instigate change. I'm interested in political science, and because of that, I take a lot of extracurriculars. I do a lot of clubs that, relate to public development and community development, advocacy. And I feel like in order to succeed in those particular fields, you have to be able to, to say what you believe and stand your ground. And it's certainly through the Chief Science Officers program that, I was able to hone those skills and develop them to, be successful.
Thank you. And kind of building on that, Elizabeth, if you don't mind adding, what emerging trends in STEM do you think will create new opportunities for women, seeing that you've kind of built SONAC from the ground up?
Yeah, wait, sorry, could you just repeat the question? I think I cut out a bit.
Yeah, no worries. I was just seeing your experience with founding SONAC. I wanted to hear from you, what emerging trends and practices in STEM do you think will create new opportunities for women and girls of color who are trying to pursue the field?
Yeah, well, I think there's a lot of really great initiatives going on, like all of these amazing panelists are talking about. I think, the internet is creating such a great web of resources that people can learn from. There's also the whole trend of AI and like generative AI, especially like machine learning and like the ChatGPT kind of things, like LLMs. And with those, I've actually found they can help a lot with like not just, automating like writing an email or something, but it could be like prepping for an interview. My mom actually just helped my cousin out prepping for an interview for a job. He's first gen and he's, never, like his parents didn't really know what to do, but my mom used ChatGPT to make a like prep guide on to talk about like talking points and like things to do and things not to do. And like she wouldn't have had the time to do that on her own, but with ChatGPT it's enabled her to help him further his career, which I think was really cool. Yeah, I'm gonna stop talking about AI because I talk about it too much, but yeah.
All very relevant. And just from an expert point of view, Regina, if you don't mind kind of sharing your experience and what emerging trends you see on your end in STEM that you think will help create new opportunities for women and girls in the field.
Wow, I am certainly not a fortune teller on that end. My colleague Heather Sherman actually was just talking about some of these emerging trends, and AI is actually one of them, and it is how to use it best in the classroom as opposed to coming from it at a vantage of, we restrict so many, in education, we try to restrict so many new technologies because we don't understand them and we don't have time because, as educators, we're being told to talk, we are being increasingly asked to teach to a test instead of allowing those things to come into the classroom and help us explore, right? So I really actually loved Elizabeth's saying that, her mom is using a tool like that. As far as emerging trends are, I really can't speak to that because I think we're still dealing with some of the things that have been some of the fallout from COVID in the classrooms. And so what I would hope that is emerging trends that are being allowed is the fact that there's always seems to be this inflection point in this country that we're not utilizing. It's probably going to sound more political, that we're not fully utilizing the full of our sex, our gender. And women have accomplished so many things throughout the millennia without needing anybody to have us give solutions. it's just the forefront of realizing that we are leaders, we are natural leaders, and having the confidence and keeping that confidence within ourselves to do whatever we meet our challenges. So we make our challenges and we meet them, and we try not to let people talk us out of our success or distill our confidence from us. And so that is what I would wish for the young women. I'm totally circumventing your question, Megan, because I want the young women that are on this panel to know that to keep your dreams, that a girl with a vision is a woman that has power. So lean into your power and to continue to do what you're setting out to do. Don't let anybody take any of your accomplishments from you. People are going to come and, especially in college, Elizabeth, I think you said that you're a senior now. And I can't remember where the other young lady said they are, but there will be people that will come to you and tell you that you can't do something. You don't sit in that space and let them define who you are. You lean in and say, I know who I am. I know what I want to accomplish. And you go find someone, a mentor, a coach, whatever you want to call them, so that they can lift you up and continue to push you forward when you need to be pushed. And then you turn around and you lift others up. That's the space that I would ask you all to sit in, and know that all of us that have been on this panel are available to help you in any way that we can. And we want to support you, and we want you to succeed and to be successful.
Thank you so much for those encouraging words, Regina. Today's webinar was all about creating space, making space, and sharing space. And so your words really do echo that message. And so just to round out the amazing Q&A session that we've had, I just want to open up the floor one more time to all of our panelists, kind of an opportunity for you to plug any last minute resources or advice, or just links that we can share with our audience members. So if anyone wants to share any best tips or tools, we're going to just take the next few minutes to do so.
I would like to quickly add, and thank you so much, Megan, for giving us the space. And yes, Regina, I saw in the chat, lots of snaps. Yes. I would encourage us as educators and people in this space to think about culturally responsive teaching and learning, and to continue to invite culturally responsive learning and teaching into the classroom. And don't shy away of the challenges of bringing in culture, understanding biases, and things that affect our students into the classroom, to remind us that if a sassy Black girl has a question, she's not being sassy or disruptive. She is being curious and is sharing her power in space, in questioning things and wanting to learn, and utilizing her leadership skills in different ways. So I invite all of us to continue thinking about the continuum of the advantages of culturally responsive learning and teaching, and using those sustainable practices to uplift the natural talents of Black girls in the field.
I don't know if Kayla, Elizabeth, or Jasmine, you have anything to say as the youth to any other students who are on the call right now?
Yeah, I guess if I were to give a piece of advice to my younger self, I feel like start somewhere is a really good one. I when I was founding SONEC, I was 16. I kind of had no idea where to start, but I just reached out to someone who was doing something similar, like you guys have talked about with mentoring. And yeah, and I think I didn't put enough trust in myself and my abilities in what I could do. But my mom is, this very strong woman, and she kind of pushed me through that. And yeah, I think once I got over that mental block, I realized how much you can do, especially without funding or anything, yeah, just start somewhere. You're never too young to start, and you do you can make something with what you have. Yeah.
And can I add something too? Okay. So something I think applies to no matter, what position you have, what age, whatever project you're working on, is that we can't be afraid of failure. I feel like there's a misconception that if you're passionate about something, that everything, even to the last minute detail, will go according to plan. However, I'm sure everyone here knows that is certainly not the case. Like I said, no matter what project you're working on or at what scale, there's always going to be mistakes that are bound to happen. This can range from tiny errors to, event-altering problems. However, I feel like the beauty of STEM is that this is a very large community, and it is a critical STEM experience is that when mistakes eventually do happen, that you're going to have a support team and you're going to have the foundations to go through the algorithm, figure out what wrong, and be able to find a solution. So I guess overall thing is don't let the fear of, the unknown hinder your drive. Instead, as these mistakes happen, embrace the learning opportunities as they come.
Yeah, I'll just echo what Jasmine said. I completely agree. I feel like STEM is a ongoing learning journey. You never stop learning in the STEM field. And I feel like every challenge is an opportunity to build a new skill. So like Jasmine said, don't be afraid to stumble, and mistakes are really just stepping stones on your path to becoming a STEM powerhouse. So, and it's also very important to celebrate your progress, no matter how small, because every step you take, it gets you closer to achieving your goals. So, yeah.
Thank you so much to all of our panelists, and they're very insightful, very thoughtful comments and perspectives. And so with that, that brings us to the end of our panel today. I want to first and foremost extend the biggest thank you to not only our youth voices for engaging in honest, open, and fruitful conversation, but also our Ready to Learn grantee, Lila in the Loop, for demonstrating how the department is supporting research-based, joyful, and inclusive learning on a massive scale, as well as our You Belong in STEM commitment makers. And to all our panelists, really, who have brought a wealth of knowledge and insight into this topic and have shared with us, and as well as everyone in the audience for tuning in and contributing to this webinar. And finally, I just wanted to extend a big thank you to the STEM team that we have here at the department, Patty Curtis, Robbie Morissette, and Mecca Smith for supporting the webinar series behind the scenes. And so if you belong to a nationwide or regional organization and would like to make a commitment to the You Belong in STEM initiative, you can find the form in our chat that will be dropped right there. And you can also sign up for our department's monthly STEM newsletter for all updates of events and opportunities that we are planning here over at the department. And finally, please know that we will send a follow-up email including many of the resources surfaced today, as well as a link to the webinar that you are free to share with others afterwards. So on behalf of the Department of Education, thank you again for tuning in, and thank you to our amazing panelists, and we hope to see you at our next webinar. Thank you.